So in this video I'm going to show you how we can use both arrays and objects together, and in this case I'm going to create objects inside an array and use them, and we're going to use a loop in this case. So first I'm going to create my variable called dogs, my dogs, yes sirs, and as an array which looks like this. Remember your brackets here, square brackets. And inside this I'm going to create my arrays. So in the first one I'm just going to make them simple. The name of my dogs will be Speedy, and it's going to have an age as well, so age 4. So this is my first object. So Speedy and age. I'm going to, remember, see this little one here? I can separate objects like I would separate things in an array. So you can also look at this as an array item if you want to. So first one and second one. So it's exactly the same, almost. Name, it's going to be Gonzalez. And it's also going to have an age of 3. So this is basically my, there we go. This is basically my variable, which contains an array which contains objects and property names and property values. So now this is done. If I click run, nothing happens and nothing breaks. We just have an object with data, and I want to print out these things, and I'm going to use a loop because there's more than one. So from some of the other days we usually create a loop. We create something where we tell variable I is equals 0, and you don't really need this if you don't want to. So variable I equals 0, and then we're going to, again, this is where the loop starts from, and then we're going to tell it that when I is smaller than my dogs, and if you recall, we use length for it to calculate this. And then we're going to iterate with, we're going to auto increment with 1 for each loop. So start from 0, as long as it's smaller than 0, and if that is true, you're going to add 1 until it's not true anymore. So in here, I'm going to have my variable called my dogs. Where did maybe I should choose another name. And I'm going to assign this to this so we can actually do the iteration. So like so. So it can actually understand. This is what we did in the last lesson as well. I'm going to print out some things here in my console log. Now I could have done an array variable for some of the things. I could just type in the name, but I'm just going to do it by hand now. But I want, of course, to print out my dogs like so, and I only want to print out the name. You want going to separate, so one is Speedy and one is Gonzalez with an age attached to it. So first is my dog name, and we're going to add some sentence to this. So my dog's name is, or in this case Speedy is, and then we want to add an age, my dog dot age plus, and then we're going to add the last of the text, years old. And we don't need that, we can do it dot like so. And end. So we have an array up here which contains one object, which is actually, in this case, the entire animals, the information we have of the animals, the name and the age. Then we have a second object, name Gonzalez, age 3. And I could just continue forever and ever and ever. Again, doing a for loop, start at 0. And when 0 is smaller than my dog's length here, in the case 1, 0, 1, so we have 2 objects, it's going to iterate through it. So let's just try to run this. And we have an error because something went wrong. And I forgot an S. So let's clear this and run it again. So here we have Speedy is 4 years old. But I made sort of a boo-boo because it's really only printing 1, and as you can see I have 2 over here. So going through the code I can see I made an error. I shouldn't have an S here, and here, and here. So this is this would only make it run twice because it can use the iteration correctly. Now that I removed my s, I created a new variable because I was actually also saving it as my dogs with an s. Now it has its own variable and I'm using this. So once I click clear and run, it's going to print out both. So that's what I wanted to show you.